I'm going to talk about how we can actually apply Chapter 10 into education because it's about evaluation and they go a little more generic institutional kind of evaluation that I'm happy with in the textbook. So let's talk about that. I'm going to use some collaborative whiteboard software that I just started using like right now. I don't even know how you pronounce it, Byboard, something like that. I don't know what it is. But I'm going to use that for this one so we can basically, I can draw what I want to get to while we're talking about it. Let me drag down a little bit. Stubborn. There we go. Let's do that instead. Okay, so the first concepts that we need to talk about are formative assessment. Formative evaluation. Okay, so when they talk about formative evaluation in the textbook, what we're really talking about is creating a check and balance system. Well, it says formative evaluation is evaluation designed, done, and intended to support the process of improvement and normally commissioned or done by or delivered to someone who can make improvements. Okay, that's great, but basically the whole idea there is you as teacher need to do these benchmark evaluations along the way so you know how well you're teaching and whether your students are actually learning. So that's really what that's about. Okay, that's cool. So now if we talk about summative assessment or evaluation, as they use it in the book, I'll be honest with you today, the whole idea of evaluation versus assessment, I don't think it really matters. So they talk about summative evaluation is the rest of evaluation. Well, what a cop-out. In terms of intentions, it is evaluation done for or by any observers or decision makers, by contrast with developers who need evaluative conclusions for any reason besides development. Well, the idea there is it's all-encompassing for a given content or period of time. This is a Jason Ellis definition, by the way, so you won't find that in any textbook. So the idea is basically we're giving an evaluation that's tied to some form of standard or skill set or indicator that is summative in nature. So it's happening after the instruction has taken place, and it's the summation or basically the evidence of knowledge contrived, earned by that point in time for that given content. So again, formative, we're basically saying, hey, how am I doing? Are my students learning in these small chunks? And is my instruction working to have them learn? Summative is, did they manage to retain that whole bigger chunk, that bigger unit of information? Then the textbook goes on to talk about, the whole idea of the definition of evaluation in general. So, if we talk about evaluation, the big evaluation as a concept, we're kind of talking at two levels in the textbook. Number one is, for us, we're talking about how we actually create and perform assessments to measure whether students have learned and what they have learned. They're talking about program evaluation for the most part here. So how well the process has actually worked in terms of what you planned out as the instructional design. So if we go back to Module 6, where I guided you through the entire whole spectrum of my idea of instructional design, of what it should look like. So the whole idea there is whether, when you did your pre-assessment, did you select the right pre-assessment? Did it actually assess what it was supposed to assess? When you went to plan your materials, did you have clear objectives that you wrote that were measurable to begin with? Did those influence on how you taught when you planned for instruction and when you planned for students to do activities? And then was the formative assessment on top of it, was it done both frequently, and was it done, or the formative evaluation, was it done frequently, and was it done in alignment with those outcomes that you said you were going to do? So all of those factors really, it's evaluating that process. Did you, when you went to teach, did you manage to get it right away and get the objectives across, and you learned that through formative assessment? Or did the students not do well, so you had to refine or redefine what you were teaching, how you were teaching it, take a look at your objectives again, make sure that they were aligned correctly to what you wanted to teach, and that you were actually going over that in the process of what you were doing with the students and student activities, that was made abundantly clear, and then you basically retest in terms of formative assessment, and then we see how well they did again. And if they learned this time, then you learned something in the evaluation process, in the fact that you needed to change your strategy in terms of teaching, or your strategy in terms of activities, or the way that you wrote the objectives and you had your expectations. So here's what I mean. If we take something like, for instance, Kirkpatrick's training evaluation model, appears on page 99 of your text, right? If we take that and we look at the different levels that they go over. So let me make it pretty. Let me make it pretty. Oh, apparently I have to do that every time. I gotta be like that. That's nice. Epic fail. Let's just do it the lazy way then. Okay. Again, this is where you guys get to watch me crash and burn because it's funny. Let's try it again, shall we? Okay, so let's just get lazy. So if I go to level 1, really ugly one. Level 1 is reaction. Okay, so that's the idea there, that we're having some form of reaction. Not really. Reaction in this case is how the students, your students, how they actually received the instruction and the material. So what you planned to do with them, how well they actually got through it. So we can look at that in terms of their production, but we can also use things like assessments or evaluations on basically things like how well you taught, presentation style, schedule. We can actually assess those through doing an evaluation with them. It's kind of like a survey with them, like you guys do as a course evaluation at the end of the course for your professors. There is a movement out there in which students would do that with their teachers in K-12 education, just to basically give the teacher a little feedback in how they're doing and how the students are actually receiving the information and how well they're doing with the mechanics of something. So for instance, let's say you wanted to pilot something like using Remind 101 with the parents in your classroom to remind their students of what they have due, or what's going on in school, what needs to happen next. You can do evaluation later on and see what they like and didn't like about using that application as a process for them. And that might give you insight on what to tweak for next time. Again, it's not really a judgment call, it's really program development, program betterment in this case in how we're doing evaluation. Step 2, or level 2, sorry, it's learning. It's fun, right? Okay, so step 2 is learning. Okay, so they go through a whole bunch of gobbledygook in terms of discussion within that section. But for our case and purpose, learning is really assessed by the formative assessment. So that's the way we're going to treat it for this course. Okay? So learning in this case, it's going to be synonymous with us seeing how well the students are learning given the instruction that they're given. Okay? Then we go on to the next level. I didn't say it was going to be beautiful. It's a working space. The next level they call behavior. Okay, transfer is probably a better word for it though. This is something that's really important right now, especially in education, and that's actually transfer of knowledge is what it's called. So level 3, they're going to say behavior. I'm going to call it transferring knowledge. Okay, so if a kid knows how to basically do something in math class, can they extrapolate that out into when they have to practice that in real life? So, you know, if I learn to solve some kind of problem in a canned environment, so like in a simulated environment, can I extrapolate that out into the real world? Okay, it's the difference between, you know, if I'm driving a car in Grand Theft Auto, and then I basically believe that I can hop into a car and just drive the same way. So it's about how well that instruction's been given in terms of simulation to the reality that is driving. Okay, so that's kind of what we're talking about in terms of transfer of knowledge. Can the students apply the knowledge in different environments, in different situations, in different settings? Then we finally get to results. And let's go back. Let's get back to results. So if I do that again, results, do big results. Let's keep with the program. Level 4 results is really your summative assessment, right, or summative evaluation. So, you know, the goal is to find out whether the training leads to final results. And then, again, they talk very nebulously in the textbook. In this case, though, the reality is you know you got results if the student has the global knowledge that's linked to the indicators and the objectives that were clearly defined at the beginning of the unit plan. So that's really what the chapter's talking about in terms of education. I know it's a long and winding road, but I think that this probably clarifies it a little bit better than the way that it's outlaid, again, in very generic terms, because ID can be applied to many different fields. So they need to be able to phrase it that way. I just feel it's important that I kind of flesh out how it applies to our particular field of teaching when we go through.